When we talk about power and video games, the PS3 might be the first thing that comes to your mind. And when I think about the PlayStation 3, it makes me think that the 7th generation of gaming might be the greatest generation of gaming ever. Like, this might actually be peak gaming, and here's why. During this time, there's 3 major players in the game: Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo. And all 3 of these companies were focused on something entirely different when it came to the living room. When the Xbox 360 came out, it seemed like Microsoft was focused on how to do online gaming. They were completely focused on bringing the multiplayer experience to gamers around the world. Nintendo, following up with their console after the GameCube, comes out with a Nintendo Wii, and this console revolutionizes how games are played in the living room for friends and family. Nintendo's vision here literally created so many core memories for kids and families around the world. And while Microsoft is focused on high definition and online gaming, and Nintendo was focused on how we game in the living room, Sony was cooking something far more powerful. Not only did Sony want to revolutionize the online gaming experience or change the way we gamed in our living rooms, they were focused on one thing, and one thing only: power. Despite how powerful the PlayStation 3 was, when this console came out, it definitely had a rough launch, probably one of the most rough launches in gaming history. It's 2006. It's cold. It's fall going into winter. It's the holiday, more specifically November 17th of 2006, and the PlayStation 3 finally releases in the US. But this rollout was extremely rough for Sony, and I mean extremely rough, primarily due to its large, staggering price of $500 for the 20GB model and $600 for the 60GB model. What also made this such a rough time for Sony when the PlayStation 3 came out was that it had a complex processor architecture that made game development extremely difficult for game devs, and it had a lack of quality launch titles due to this fact. And it came out a year later after its competitor, which was the Xbox 360. So by the time the PS3 had finally came out and hit the market, everybody already had their mind made up and they just wanted an Xbox. Everybody wanted an Xbox 360. But Sony had a far more powerful console, and that's actually what I want to focus on today. And I want to focus on a specific feature that was on the PlayStation 3, and that was Life with PlayStation. Protein folding at home. Now, this is one of those topics that I'm actually super excited to talk about, because I feel like, at least from what I've seen, it hasn't been covered that much on YouTube, and I feel like it's almost a forgotten feature that was on the PS3. And it's just actually super cool because it just shows that Sony was trying so many different things at the time, and it really showed off how powerful the PlayStation 3 really was. So let's get into it. We already know that the PS3, or Sony, was extremely focused on power. They wanted to have a console that dominated the living room, and they wanted it to do everything. That's DVD, printer, photo, gaming, movies, streaming, online gaming. They wanted the PS3 to do all, which would eventually lead to their tagline near the end of the PS3's life, which was, "It only does everything." Sony basically said to everyone around the world, the only thing that you need in your living room is the PlayStation 3 console. And one of the ways that Sony was going to show off how powerful their console really was through science and medical research. Life with PlayStation released on the PS3 on September 18th of 2008. This is almost 2 years after the initial launch of the PS3 in the United States. However, Life with PlayStation would only last for about 4 years and eventually see it shut down on November 6th of 2012, following the release of system software version 4.30. Life with PlayStation was a feature introduced as a kind of an informational and an interactive hub. It was an application that combined real-world data, weather, news, and something called folding at home. And it was also sort of like a screensaver for the PS3 when you weren't gaming. And man, this thing was so cool. Like, you could launch this application, right? And there was this globe. And on the globe, there would be this little finger that looked like something out of Final Fantasy or something like at the main menu. And you could spin the globe around, right? And you could see real-time weather, news headlines, what was happening on the other side of the world, like all in real time. And it would show you all kinds of time zones as well. And one thing that I thought was super sick about this was that it would also show you what other consoles around the world, like what areas of the world, were also contributing to Life with PlayStation, which was the folding at home, which was protein folding. Now, for those that don't know what protein folding is, let me explain. Protein folding is the process by which a protein's linear amino acid chain is transformed into a three-dimensional structure that allows the protein to function in the body. The protein structure is essential to its function. If a protein doesn't fold properly in the body, it may become inactive or toxic and can cause diseases. For example, cystic fibrosis, Tay-Sachs disease, Marfan syndrome, and some forms of cancer are all caused by proteins that can't perform their job when they don't fold properly. Protein folding is a complex process that involves multiple stages. The time that it takes for a protein to fold can vary significantly depending on what kind of protein it is. Understanding and simulating protein folding has been a challenge for computational science and biology since the 1960s. So when Folding at Home launched on the PS3, it took advantage of the console's unique hardware, specifically the CBE, or the Cell Broadband Engine, to run protein folding simulations from home. And this is one of those things that really make me think about how cool the PlayStation 3 was. And it honestly makes me so grateful that I was able to be alive and be a kid at the time, that when this console came out, it was like peak gaming, and none of us knew it. If you were a kid at the time, you just don't know a good thing until it's gone, right? And we all got to live through this era of gaming, and just being alive at the same time that Sony was doing these really cool things with their console is just amazing to me. It's actually mind-blowing. So PS3 owners could download a dedicated Folding at Home application on Life with PlayStation from the PlayStation Network, and once you installed it, it became a built-in feature under the network section of the PS3's XMB menu, which is honestly my favorite menu from Sony, to be honest. The PS4 and PS5 menu are cool, but something about that XMB menu from the PS3 is just amazing. Sony designed the interface to be visually appealing and simple, so they didn't want to do a text-based interface where it's just a bunch of words on a screen. They put the globe on there and made it really interactive, and it had this really sombering music in the background, this ambience to it that was really cool, and it made you feel like you're contributing to something bigger than yourself, if that makes sense. It was really cool. The Cell Broadband Engine was composed of one primary power processing element, or PPE for short, and multiple synergistic processing elements capable of parallel computation. The Folding at Home team worked closely with Sony and Stanford University to optimize the Folding at Home code for the Cell architecture on the PS3. This allowed the PS3 to crunch through work units very, very efficiently, especially compared to many standard desktop CPUs of that era at the time. So when the PS3 users launched Folding at Home, the console's client would request a work unit from the Folding at Home servers. These work units represented small pieces of a larger protein simulation. So imagine a group project, and you and your students, or you and your friends or whatever at your table, are all contributing to the project. That's basically what your PS3 was doing. So it would be a big assignment, and everybody would get a sheet of paper, which is your, the work unit, and basically all your PS3s would contribute to a massive project. So the PS3 processed the work units using its SPEs to perform molecular dynamic calculations. This would simulate how proteins move and fold over time like they do in the human body. This computing power helped accelerate scientific research significantly. This is also one of those things that just make me feel wow, the PlayStation 3 was so powerful at the time that it was able to do that through other PS3s around the world. That's the kind of shit that makes me just feel Sony is, they were just so ahead of the time with the console and the design, and just everything that the PS3 was doing at the time was just so fire. I'd love it. So basically your PS3 was acting as a strong idle computer when you weren't gaming, and it also acted like a high-tech screensaver. I mean, you could just launch this thing and have it on your 50 to 55-inch Sony Bravia TV in the living room and see this globe on the screen with this beautiful music playing in the background while your computer, or your PS3 if you will, was contributing to something bigger than yourself. The PS3 drew more power than a typical computer running the Folding at Home application, but for participants, it was a convenient way to contribute to a research project without needing a separate PC dedicated to the task. I want to talk about the data upload and how it basically worked. So after a work unit, or the assignment that was given to your PS3 was completed, the PS3 client would automatically upload the results from your PS3 back to the Life with PlayStation Folding at Home central servers, which is crazy, because it's just your PlayStation 3 gets this assignment, it does this crazy amount of research, using the computing power, and then it sends it back to its teacher, which is like badass. Like, what are we talking about? That's so ill. And this is like another thing that makes me so happy that I had a PS3 back in the day, because like while there was a 360 and the Nintendo Wii, of course, and Nintendo DS and all that, like it was cool to know that the PlayStation 3 was able to do things like that. You know what I mean? Like the fact that the Sony PS3 was able to contribute to something that was really important to society is amazing. And it's just like they were so ahead of their time. I kind of wish that the PS5s would actually do this thing too. Like I wish it would kind of bring back stuff like this, but that's a topic for another video. So the PlayStation 3 was really part of a bigger picture the whole time. It was bigger than gaming and entertainment in the living room. These individual results were combined with data from PCs and other PS3s around the world and laptops, and together they would build this large data set that researchers could analyze to understand protein folding better. And that's something that I like to take into heart, something that like makes me so happy to know that I owned a PS3 at the time. The impact and the contributions that the consoles around the world made to something that's bigger than us, bigger than entertainment, bigger than gaming, bigger than watching DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever you're doing, playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 or Little Big Planet or Killzone 2 at the time, or whatever it was that you were playing. Your PlayStation had so much power that it was able to contribute to something that was very important to society and humanity. And it's crazy because I remember one night, not too long ago either, I was in a Discord call with my friend, and he's like, we were just going down like a road, like a memory lane thing, right? And we're just talking about the PS3, and he's like, yo, do you guys remember that app on the network section? It was like under PlayStation Home or something, and it was called like Life with PlayStation. And I was like, Life with PlayStation? What? Like, oh yeah, I remember that. And then he was like, yeah, you would like click on it and then like it would open up this globe, and then like it would be like the finger that goes around the globe and you could see like weather and all that. And he was like, man, that was so cool. I would wake up in the morning and I would just let it run. Like while he was getting ready for school, he was like, he would let it run while he would like shower and then go into the room and change, and like it would just be on the screen, and it was like super calming or something. And he was like, yeah, even at nighttime, like when I was done playing Call of Duty, I would just like turn on the Life with PlayStation app and I would just let it do its thing. And then he was like, I would, you know, go around the world and like look at all the different time zones and look at the weather and the news and all that, and it was super cool. And we just like kind of sat back and low-key kind of got sad, because we were like, yeah, that was a great time. Like, why does Sony not do these things anymore with their consoles, like PlayStation Home and Life with PlayStation? And there's just certain things that the PS3 offered that the consoles don't have now, and it's really crazy to think about, to be honest. Like, we don't have PlayStation Home anymore, we don't have Life with PlayStation, we don't have certain services, and it's just like, it's kind of sad to think about. But I don't want to get sad here, I just thought it was something that was really cool to mention. Let's talk about this massive computing effort, which means that at its peak, the PS3's community's contribution was extremely significant to the medical research that was done. The cell's processor's raw computational power, combined with thousands of PS3s participating, gave folding at home a major boost for scientific and medical research. And now that brings me to a saying that I actually kind of hate to say out loud, but all great things, or all good things, must come to an end, and nothing lasts forever. Support for folding at home on PS3 ended in 2012 as Sony shifted focus to new platforms. Although it was short-lived for those 4 years, the PS3's participation remains a notable example of how a home gaming console could contribute to scientific research on a global scale. So in summary, Life with the PlayStation and PS3 worked by turning the console's powerful cell processor into a miniature supercomputer node. Gamers simply launched the application and the PS3 took care of the rest, downloading work units, computing protein folding simulations, and returning the results, helping advance scientific understanding of diseases related to protein misfolding. I know I talked about it earlier a little bit and I kind of nerded out and geeked out, right? I love PlayStation, yeah, we get it. You love PS3, you love Sony. But I really like to take these things into heart and really resonate with it. I got to live through a time and grow up as a kid when my PlayStation 3 was contributing to significant medical research at an extremely fast rate. So even though Xbox 360 had figured out how to do Xbox Live and the proper online gaming experience, and the Nintendo Wii had their thing, right? They turned the living room into an extremely fun place to be by revolutionizing how you play video games, literally, with their controllers. Wii Sports is an extremely popular game today and still goes for about, I think, $100 brand new. but it's really cool to know that my PS3 in my living room or in my room was contributing to something bigger than myself. And to me, that's one of those things that make me go right back to Sony and just realize how special and how much they cared about their product and what they delivered. They really wanted all of the gamers around the world to have one thing in their living room or in their room that could really do everything. And I'm not gonna lie, at the time when the PS3 had came out, it really did feel like the PS3 could do everything. And just like the picture in this thumbnail, it gives this warm, weird, nostalgic feeling. I remember being in my living room at my grandma's house when I got my PS3 for the first time. Or when I took my PS3 home and I would hook it up to the TV in my room, which was a pretty dog shit TV, to be honest. It was horrible. The color was all messed up. It looked weird, and it was weird because the thumbnail for this video on that actual image for Life with PlayStation, when you would scroll over it on the XMB menu, the TV that I had in my room already had that color on it because the color was all messed up. But I remember seeing it and always thinking, what is that? What was that app? And I'm not gonna lie, I'd never even used the app. I looked it up online and I saw that Life with PlayStation was this thing that was science, medical research, raw processing power. And my friend brought it to my attention, like I mentioned earlier. And I remember going, yeah, I actually do remember that. And I used to never click on it because I thought it was just something that I didn't need to, do. I was just too focused on Little Big Planet 1, Little Big Planet 2. I was so focused on getting camos on my guns in Call of Duty and getting trophies and playing Mirror's Edge and Killzone 3, Mortal Kombat, playing games that I had significant memories on with my friends on the PlayStation Network, playing Infamous for the first time, playing Infamous 2 for the first time, bringing home a brand new game or a PlayStation card just to buy stuff on PlayStation Home. And I guess it's safe to say that's kind of the reason why I never even got to use Life with PlayStation, and it kind of makes me sad because this whole entire time while I was gaming on this console, that app was right there, and I didn't even know how powerful it was at the time. All I knew was just getting on Netflix here and there, but mainly just playing video games, and to know that my console in my room was able to do that was amazing. And I also just want to take the time real fast to just thank Sony and thank medical research and just thank everybody that contributed to that project. I mean, it's truly something special. To some people, they're like, it's whatever, cool, it was an app. But it makes me kind of get this feeling inside, like I wish Sony would kind of go back to doing things like that. Because in my opinion, yeah, the console's powerful, but this really set you apart from your competitors. If we want to measure by those metrics, I mean, you guys had the coolest console to have in the living room. For me, it wasn't a Nintendo Wii. It wasn't an Xbox 360. It was a PlayStation 3. I know this video kind of has gone on for too long, but I just really love talking about these topics. So if you stayed this far in the video and you actually stayed and watched and liked what I had to say and learned something new, let me know in the comments below. If you enjoy this kind of content, please go ahead and subscribe. Please leave a like, leave a comment. And if you remember using Life with the PlayStation as a kid or even as an adult at the time, let me know. Sometimes it's hard for me to stop talking when it comes to these subjects, but I'm just really passionate about things that touch me in the heart, like that just do something to my core. And it also brings that kind of nostalgic feel, I don't know. That's just me though. But if you enjoyed this video, yeah, like, comment, subscribe. And until next time, I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.